The response to that pod was a real moment for us, and I think it's when we first realised the power of our platform. Because Dave was a guest who came on, and I think the majority of the audience wouldn't have known who he was by name. But it's been one of our most popular episodes, and it just transcended everything. It was just people shared it, and people got so much from it, and people went to the workshop because of it. And I was one of them. So I got invited along to go to Piha and spent 2 days with you and Dave out there. And like you said, it was a really surreal experience meeting people in the parking lot before, and they were sort of like, oh, where you from? How'd you find out about it? It's like, oh, I listened to this podcast, bro, Between Two Beers. Like, oh, yeah, man, that was my podcast. It's like, wow. But that's when I met you. And so this workshop is it's part breathing, it's part mobility, it's part reconnecting with nature, it's part stress mitigation and understanding our nervous system, but it's also part storytelling. And Jemarl led the karakia on the first day. He helped facilitate a lot of the group conversations where a real sense of community developed really quickly, mostly through vulnerability. And then on the second day, Jemarl spoke. And he did about a 30-minute talk, which moved me greatly and everyone else that was in the room. It was full of emotion, rich storytelling. And I knew before you'd finished that we needed to get you on the show. And to be honest, you were the catalyst for this Low-Key Legends series we've got. Guys with epic stories, which are going to be so helpful to people, perhaps not with the same profile yet, but who knows, with this platform, we might make that work. But yeah, in a weekend of powerful moments, that was what stood out to me as being perhaps the most powerful. And I wanted to start by asking you about telling your story well and the art of storytelling, how important it is for you to be able to tell your story and capture people's emotions.
Well, you know, we're Māori, and storytelling's a massive part of who we are and how we pass down knowledge. And there's some great stories out there that, you know, that I loved listening to as a child. And with a lot of the stories, there's deeper meanings and morals to those stories. So the power of the story has been something that I've always been interested in. And hey, we all love a good story. That's what this podcast is about. When I decided that I wanted to, you know, uplift my life and change as a person, I started investing in myself and started doing workshops to try and get better. And one of the workshops I did was with a guy called Donald Miller, Business Made Simple, because I was interested in this kind of stuff. And it's all around storytelling, and everyone's got a story. And with business, you know, there's always a hero, and the hero has a problem. And the hero meets a guide, and the guide helps him to solve that problem. You know, you look at Star Wars, Karate Kid, it's all pretty much follows a similar formula. So I got really interested in storytelling and stories, and I thought about my story, how I could help people. And yeah, I just had it in my mind that if I can tell my story and uplift just one person, and I always talk about that, just one person, then I'm happy to put myself out here. I'm happy to share, be vulnerable, because I know, like you said, I'm just an average person who's had an average life, a really nice one, but I made some big changes around my values and my principles, and my life has changed completely, you know, so that's why we're here today, to talk a little bit about that. But in the back of my mind, it's how can I help people? Well, I've got a story, you know, and the thing that I tell the rangatahi that I work with is that everyone, including myself, loves a story of adversity where someone messed up, or someone had struggles and they overcame it and they went on to do great things. So from this moment on, whatever's happened in the past, we have that opportunity to rewrite the end of the story. So, you know, with these kids that have had hardships and struggles, and not just the rangatahi, just anyone, that you can collect yourself and you can create a positive ending to this. You've got a great start. You know, if you've had trouble and hardships, and not everyone has, but if you have, then you've got a great start to a story, and you have the opportunity to finish that story. And so, you know, that's what I'm hoping with my story, that it's only just started, and there's a lot to do, and yeah, I'm creating my own ending.
If you guys don't mind, I might just sit and just listen to...
Sorry.
No, not at all. Don't apologise, because it's so captivating so early. And I often say this at the end of podcasts, is when I've found myself sat and listening are the ones that I enjoy the most. And if this first 15 minutes is anything to go by, I'm going to absolutely enjoy it. So I'll try and chime in every now and again with a question, but I'll maybe
yourself, bro.
I'll leave the guidance to Stephen, and I'll just indulge myself in this.
Keep an eye on me. I can tend to go off. And
No, this is your platform and your story to tell. So please.
All right, I'm going to start with some words from Dave. So we went to Dave and said, give us some insights on Jemarl, and he sent us some pretty incredible voice messages. I'm going to break it down to some of the key points. He said, Jemarl is an integral part of the workshop, and I couldn't run it without him. He brings the sense of calm. He's a very approachable guy, and people can feel it. But there's also this fierceness in there due to his upbringing. He's been through the fire, and I fucking like that. And you can see both, but it's all controlled. He gives this talk on the workshop, and it really impacts people. It is impact because of what he had to go through to get where he is now, and it's one hell of a story. Where he's at now is he just wants to help people. But you can't help people unless you help yourself first. And the thing I like about Jemarl is he's done the deep work. He's done the self-reflection. To do that, you have to be vulnerable and dig deep below the surface, and he's done that. And after doing that, you have to have a really good idea. You have a really good idea of who you actually are or who you want to be. And he's on a real journey. His story resonates with people because it's so relatable. To achieve what he's achieved in a small space of time, you have to have incredible self-belief and courage. And what he's built and building is outstanding. Pretty awesome words from Dave. Enough teasing of the story. I sort of want to get into it by...
It's a hell of a trailer for the story that's coming up.